This public hearing is now called order at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, March 23rd of 2021. This hearing is being held as required by the provisions of Chapter 131, Section 40 of the General Laws of the Commonwealth and Act relative to the protection of the wetlands, as most recently amended. Notice of the time and place of this hearing was published in the Advocate on March 18, 2021. Is also posted in the town clerk's office. Persons wishing to be heard will be called in the following order. And I'm to let folks know, open meetings law, that this is being recorded and broadcast. And I was sitting in on a workshop this weekend, and it mentioned open meetings laws, and I have been negligent in announcing who's present from the commission. So I'm going to do that now. I'm Bob Roach. I'm the chair. Also present are commissioners Heidi Pelletier, Everett Filla, and Ryan Resendiz. We have our agent Marilee Kelly and our senior clerk Joanne Mello. And then the rest of the folks are here for the items on the agenda. The first item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the March 9 meeting. I reviewed, I don't have any changes to suggest. If anybody else does or would like to make a motion to accept as presented.
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes as submitted.
Thank you, Robert. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Ryan. Okay, I'm going to do this roll call as I see you on my screen. Heidi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you very much. What was that? Next item on the agenda, Marilee, I should ask you, do we have any meeting mail?
No mail tonight.
Okay. Next, this is old business, NOI for PJ Keating Company, 72 South Main Street, file number SC 001-0558. A notice of intent was filed by PJ Keating Company for property located at 72 South Main Street, map 15, lots 15 through 18. The applicant proposes to grade the eastern slopes of the existing silt piles located at the rear of the PJ Keating Quarry property. Applicant is represented by Douglas Vigneault of PJ Keating Company, planning the site plan of land at 72 South Main Street in Acushnet, dated December 21 of 2020. This old business hearing was a continuation from a month ago. Mr. Vigneault, floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, commission members. The town and its consultants, along with PJK and our consultant, did meet on site last Tuesday, March 16th. And in the spirit of allowing the experts to speak, I did not walk the site with either Conoco or Karen Environmental or with Marilee. I allowed them to walk the site on their own, as we had agreed to. And so having said that, I would like to hand it over to Chuck Karen of Karen Environmental, our consultant, if that's okay with you, Mr. Chairman.
It is. Thank you, Mr. Karen. Floor is yours.
Hi, good evening. As Doug said, we walked the site last week with your consultant and agent. We had two purposes really in mind for that. One was to review the wetland delineation, and the second was to come up with an approach on how we were going to deal with any sedimentation that's taken place in the wetlands themselves. We walked the entire wetland line in the area of the piles, working from north to south. I'll let Mike Toohill speak to this when we get to that, but as far as I know, he was in complete agreement with the delineation. We didn't need to make any changes to that. It is worth noting that compared to the delineation we did about 12 years ago, the wetlands have expanded rather than going the other way, fortunately. And most of the places they've expanded are on areas of where the worst of the sedimentation has taken place. So it seems like I think probably because of the more impervious nature of that sediment and things, it's holding water on the surface, and some of the wetland plants are liking those conditions. Unfortunately, not good wetland plants. There's a lot of Phragmites and things like that. So as far as I know, they were happy with the delineation. So I'm hoping we have that issue put to bed. We came up with an approach to how to deal with the sedimentation. Mike wanted us to basically flag the extent of the recent sedimentation, and then to do a series of cores just with the hand auger in those areas to come up with so we have some idea of what the depth of sediment is. So we have both an idea of the, how much there is in kind of the aerial extent as well. And then based on that, we come up with an approach on which areas should be kind of automatically restored, which areas we need to monitor to see what happens over time. I was hoping to be able to do that flagging the day we were out there, but we'd had those couple of real cold days right before that, and in too many places that sediment was frozen solid to be able to core through it. So I got back out there yesterday and got those areas flagged up, did those cores, so we have the depth, and I'll be putting a report together on what we found. And Doug is also arranging to have those the flags I put up survey located, and we can get those plotted up on the plan. Basically, what we agreed to, semi-agreed to, with how we thought we should approach this going forward was there's some areas where in the outside of the tree line where the wetland has expanded up into the sediment, where it makes sense to do some kind of just wholesale restoration. We just, that's all just shrubs and Phragmites that have established on the sediment. Those sediments out, get it back down to about the elevation of the adjacent wetland, and planting and seeding that area for restoration. There's some other areas where the wetland comes up close to the piles in kind of that same area where the sediment is out beyond the tree line. In that area, I think we're leaning towards doing some partial restoration, reaching in as far as you can with the machine to scrape out the sediment and get it revegetated. The trees in that area are pretty widely spaced, so I think we can work around the trees. But that final assessment, that's going to have to, I want to see how everything plots up once they're located before we commit to that. There's another area a little bit further north that's not right against the piles, where we have the thinner sediment into an area of the wetland. In that area, we discussed letting that sit for, through much, if not all, of this coming growing season to see what happens. It appears, there's sections in there where herbaceous vegetation and some shrubs have reestablished on sediment in the past. And we think there's a chance that area is going to restore itself naturally without us having to get in there. That's an area where there's a lot more shrub cover left. The trees are denser. The soils are a lot wetter, softer. So trying to get in there and get the sediment out has the potential to cause a lot of problems there. So we need to we want to take, if the wetland doesn't start coming back, then probably have to take that step of getting that sediment out. But if we have evidence that it's restoring naturally, it's probably going to be best just to let that area sit. And that is what I have.
Thank you, Mr. Karen. Perhaps I should call on Mike Toohill next, if you'd like to speak, Mike. You were out there for this visit?
Yes, I did. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I agree with Chuck. I'm gonna start back from a little bit earlier. There are two different kinds of deposition out there. There's a small area where there's windborne deposition of some of the material that came off the pile. That material is very, very thin. It's just a spritz on top of the existing leaves that came down this past fall. So that's the kind of stuff that we would just absolutely leave alone. And then as Chuck said, there are, and I'm going to add one more kind of area. There are three basic areas. There's the area he talked about at the toe of the fill, which is mostly scrub shrub, and a lot of it's invasive that would be fairly easily restored without doing any kind of ecological damage. The second is just within the tree line in that same area, and that's where we want to see what's going on with some of that material back in there, because it's a little thinner as you get into the tree line there. The third one is one of the ones Chuck was talking about a little bit further to the north, I believe it was, where some of the material has reached further into the woods. I want to add kind of a fourth category in there. There are some areas in there where we have some fairly significant depth of waterborne material. It's almost like channels that go down into the wetlands. So if you go off the side of the channels, it's, as Chuck described, fairly thin. We want to see what's going on with that through the growing season. But there are some of these deeper pockets that might be, relatively easy to get to by hand, actually, to get some of that deeper sediment out. Some of it was almost a foot deep, 8 inches to a foot deep. So we've got some areas that have some fairly significant deposition back there. But again, I think in that entire area, we want to wait and see what happens during the growing season. And we can wait, look at it again after things pop out in May and June, and then make a decision as to whether we want to wait and, to reassess again in September, or if we have enough information from the late spring to be able to put out a course of action. And as Chuck mentioned, there are several different ways of dealing with this. One is to just go in and get the stuff out. The second is to leave it alone and let the area self-restore. And then the third is a definite restoration along what will be the former toe of the slope, because they're proposing to move that toe of slope to the wetland. And I can see what Chuck was talking about, where some of the wetlands probably crept upslope a bit, but our purpose out there was to review the wetland line as it exists now, not 12 years ago. So I agree with where the wetland line is flagged now out on the site. We have pictures if the commission want to see some pictures. I think Mary Lee had those. If not, we'll leave it open for questions for the commissioners.
I'm going to ask our agent to speak now, and she might be able to show us the photos. Mary Lee? Thanks, Mike. So, Mary Lee, would you like to comment about your visit out there?
I'm muted. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you.
I totally agree with these guys about the wetland line and also about the deposition of the silts. It's really bad in some places and it's very little in others. So, but it's going to take some work to get it out of there, no doubt about it. And but the first thing that really should happen is the pile. If it's going to move, that would be great. But we need to put up some kind of erosion control right away, because every time we get a hard rain, there's getting more and more deposition there.
Mr. Merrily, is it possible to show those photos? Do you have those available?
I do. Yeah, they're right in front of me. I don't know how to. Oh, hold on. I'll have to pull them up email.
All right. While you're doing that, I do have a question for Mr. Toohill, or for Mr. Karen. So you commented about some of the deposition along the tree line. So that would be the area that you went back in and you flagged within the last day or two and would do the cores. Is that correct?
Yes, that's right. So we have the wetland line that was already there, and then I flagged an edge of the the recent sedimentation that's taken place, which that's what I just did yesterday.
And how much of a difference is there between that so-called sedimentation line and the original, and the flag line, the wetland flag line?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Is there much of a difference or, between the wetland flag line and then this deposition area that you flagged very recently?
Yes, it's out, the deposition is out into the wetlands, a ways in a couple areas.
Sure.
One thing I forgot to mention before we had talked about out there is just in our planning of kind of sequencing here, what, as far as where we're, in the areas where we want to remove the sediment and do restoration, my suggestion is to wait until we have those piles out of there and at least be heading towards having them stabilized, so we don't have, if we get, unfortunately, if we get more sedimentation as they go along, you never know, you never know if we get a extreme rainfall or something. We don't want to have to go back into the wetlands twice and cause that disturbance twice. It'd be better to wait until we know we've got that area pretty well secured before doing that step.
That makes sense. And I had a note here that now we have an engineer in town who would like to ask a question before he has to scoot off to another meeting. So Mr. DeVignan, if you'd like to ask your question, please do so.
Good evening. My name is Dave DeVignan. I'm chairman of the Board of Health. I wanted to know how much material are we talking about moving in cubic yards when we pull back the slopes and the silt piles? And where would that material be deposited?
I'll leave that up to somebody from Keating to answer.
So this is Rob Robinson, VP of Aggregates for Keating. We're looking at approximately just over 100,000 yards, 120,000 yards of material, cubic yards. And we're not sure at this moment in time where we would put that. We're exploring some outlets, and we'll see where we're going to be going over the next couple of weeks. So that's kind of where we're at the moment. I'm not in a position where I can say definitely where it's going to go, but we are exploring some opportunities or some different areas.
Okay. And
Are we talking about on-site or off-site?
It's a possibility of both.
The Board of Health, for the record, would like to see it all removed from the site. We consider it solid waste.
Okay.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
thank you, Mr. DeVignan. Going back to what Mr. Karen said then, so we would want PJ Keating to work out this plan of where this is going to go before we start considering getting into the wetland and removing sediment and those kinds of things, correct?
Yes, that's correct, Mr. Chairman. This is Mike Toohill, and I agree with Chuck. It wouldn't be advisable to start doing a restoration at the Toa slope when you're going to be moving that Toa slope around.
Sure, that makes sense. Thank you. Merrily, any luck with photographs? Did you want me to try to, I don't know if I can share my screen or not. I could if I needed to. Merrily, you're still muted if you're trying to respond.
I have them up if you want to let me share my screen.
Can you do that? If not, Acushnet Cable will have to give you the permission. Nick, can you do that
Yeah.
for?
Yeah, she should have access.
Okay.
Okay, so just hit share screen. There it is. Uh-oh.
Good to hear uh-oh during a meeting.
Yeah,
I don't know.
there you go.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're visible.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. So there's the first one of windborne deposition. approximately 25 feet into the wetland. There's the area of waterborne deposition, approximately 75 feet into the wetland.
May Mr. Toohill, would this be the so-called channel of sediment?
They are. In photo 3, I'm taking the picture and I'm looking towards Chuck and Mary Lee, heading kind of back towards the pile. So I'm looking along one of those channels. Photo 2 shows you, I think, pretty clearly some of the deposition in a channel and the lighter deposition off to the sides.
All right, so those would be that fourth category you mentioned.
Correct.
All right, making sure.
There's another area, photo 4 is another kind of channel deposition area. Photo 5 is what Chuck was talking about before, is the edge of the woodland at the toe of slope, where if you go up slope from this, and I'm looking up slope in this photo, I'm looking into that scrub shrub that's mostly invasive. I'm actually looking towards the pile from photo 5. So you can see some of the deposition came down and got down around the trees, but a lot of it is up in that scrub shrub at the toe of slope. And 6 and 7 are looking kind of laterally along that wetland at the toe of slope. And so you can see it's mostly invasive, a lot of Russian olive, a lot of Phragmites and other things in there. And this is an area that it would be, actually, there's a lot of material, but it would be easy to do a restoration in here because you don't worry about the vegetation that's in there right now because it's invasive.
Yeah.
That gives you an idea of the different areas.
That's all the pictures.
Thank you. Saw those on the email today. Okay. Guess I should open it up to fellow commission members if they had any questions. Oops. There we go. Mr. Hannan.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Just a quick comment. I agree with you that the resting site for the silt pile needs to be approved before you folks make a final decision. And I'd like to make sure that Mr. Karen does the work that he said he was going to do, and they follow up on the other area and tie in the flags and get them on a plan. And the soil board as well will be asking that the material be removed from the site, not placed somewhere else on the site. And part of that is the first picture was from airborne deposition. And the town's having a problem with airborne material from those piles. And we'd like to see them removed from the site, not stockpiled somewhere else. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hannan. Anybody else that's tuning into the meeting have a comment or a question for anybody involved in this project? Does anybody from PJ Kidding have any other comments or questions or follow-up?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Doug Vigno. I agree with Mary Lee that what we would like to do as soon as possible is put up a straw bale and silt fence barrier relatively near the toe of the slope right now. And we'll do that as quickly as possible. We can give you a detail as to what that would look like. By the time the next meeting rolls around on Tuesday, 2 weeks from this evening, we will supply the commission with a regrading plan and to remove all silts from the 100-foot buffer zone. And also we're contemplating putting in a stone check dam at the bottom of that new, as the slope is pushed back, the bottom of the slope will literally be 100 feet further in. And we would propose to put in a stone check dam at some point down the road, should any issues occur, it'll just be a better protection again from any further encroachment into the wetlands area. So that's what we propose to do. So we will get some plans prior to next meeting, and they will be full-size plans, and we can discuss those at that time. And as my colleague Rob said, we are looking for options for the sediment. We will obviously would like to know where the definition of solid waste arose from, because it's not considered solid waste. So I hope that the town can provide that basis for that determination, and we will do the same. Thank you.
Mr. DeVigny, do you want to provide that answer now? Or do you want to do that in writing later?
I'll defer to Pat on that one.
As it's defined in 310 CMR 19. If you look at some of your past meetings, Mr. Vigneault himself has said that it's unsaleable, not reusable. It's a byproduct of mining. And I'll just call your attention to the definition of solid waste in the Mass DEP regulations, and you should be satisfied. And I don't know if Merrill Lee is going to mention it tonight, but we had another exceedance on the discharge to the Acushnet River for oil and grease, at least 3 times the allowable level. So just so the commission knows that basin 1C is not complete. And I'd hate to see you make any type of final determination there. There's still issues. If we could follow up on that at another meeting.
Yeah, that's certainly the first we've heard of that. We don't know where that came from. We don't have any data that supports that.
Well, your consultant should have notified you. He was notified by TRC, but it's not on the agenda tonight, so I don't want to have that discussion. If you want, I'll forward you the email from Conoco, Mr. Vigneault, and you'll have it. Would you like me to do that?
Yeah, it's not on the agenda, but sure, please do.
Okay, you got it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Merrill Lee,
Yes, sir.
your advice here, because we still have this NOI open, and there still seems to be a lot of questions unanswered before we can vote on this, or am I misreading the situation?
No, I think you're right. I think it needs to be continued for at least another meeting until we can get a good look at how things are looking before we start any restoration.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like any work can be done yet until we have a few more answers, including those cores that Mr. Karen's going to do. But I do agree with Mr. Vigneault that we should have, and with you, Merrill Lee, that we should have an erosion barrier put down. And I appreciate that PJ Keating is going to provide that paperwork for us at the next meeting. So, any other comments or questions from anybody about this topic?
Mr. Chairman, sorry, Alex Whiteside here. I just want to make sure for the record that if there's going to be a continuance, the applicant needs to agree to it. So if they could just state that on the record.
Well, yes, I was going to just ask the Mr. Chairman if I could speak. So,
Please.
Yeah. Okay. So, yes, we are obviously requesting a continuance, although the word didn't come out yet. But we did say at the next meeting that we would be discussing the regrading plans and whatnot. So, yes, officially, we are requesting a continuance for 2 weeks, and as I indicated earlier, and we'll get those plans to you, and we'll move this along. And we just would like to, in the interim, if we can get the permission of the commission this evening to put down the straw hay bales and silt fence, we would ask that to be done. Like I said, we can send the commission a detail of that, and but we would like to get on that as quickly as possible. This isn't going to be a job that's done overnight. obviously. It's going to take some time. Just it is a construction project. It's going to take a while to move that much material.
Yeah, I have no objection to getting some sort of erosion barrier out there sooner than later. Merrily, any objections to that?
No, I agree. I think it's a great idea.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, Everett.
I'd like to move that we issue a continuance on this NOI and allow them to do some erosion control behind the piles.
Sorry to interrupt, Everett. I just got one quick question and comment.
Well, Ryan, let's do this. Let's have a second, then we can go to discussion because we have a motion on the floor.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, now discussion.
Question, comment, question. Mr. Vino, is this something that you guys are gonna do in-house? Like have your operators and your laborers do all this work, or is this something that's gonna be subbed out to like somebody like Clean Harbors or whatever, something like that, you know? I personally, my comment would be I'd like to see it done by your guys in-house, get you guys working and keeping those guys busy, because it seems like there isn't much operation going on there, and I want to see this resolved and get everybody back to work and the town happy, and everybody back to their normal lives, because this is somebody's livelihood and this is a business that a lot of people rely on. So that's just my comment and my question.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. We appreciate that very much, Mr. Resendez. That's obviously our intent as well. We did have to lay off some folks, and very unfortunately, but we do have the equipment and the wherewithal to move the material ourselves. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions or comments on the motion that's been made and seconded? Okay, so again, as I see you on my screen, Heidi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
And that's unanimous. Thank you. So this will be continued until the first meeting in April,
Which is April 13th.
April 13th. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
PJ Keating, thanks to the commission. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Vigneault, Mr. Karen.
Thank you all. Good night.
We have, I'm going to read these together because we've been. So we have an NOI, Allen Cloud Solar LLC, Cushing Lane, 7 lot 26. File number is SE001-0562. Property owner is Raymond White of White's Farm Incorporated, and NOI Allen Clapp Woodbridge Renewables LLC, 1052 Main Street. File number SE001-0561. Property owner Nancy Brito Kitchen. Our agent received an email from Stephen Joseph from SciTech asking to continue to the next meeting. So I will entertain a motion to continue these two solar projects until the April 13th meeting.
So moved.
I'll second.
Heidi's hand up first. So motion from Heidi. Everett, you want to do the second then?
Yes, second.
Any further discussion?
No.
Okay, as I see you, Heidi?
Yeah.
Okay, Everett?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, continue till April 13th. Next, on new business, we have an RDA for Maurice St. Armand, 1094 Main Street. A request for determination was filed by Maurice St. Armand for property located at 1094 Main Street, map 7, lots 15 and 23A. The applicant proposes to install a 2,500 gallon septic tank and associated piping for a residential house within the 100-foot buffer zone for a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by George Collins of Collins Civil Engineering Incorporated. Plan name is Plan and Details, 2,500 gallon septic tank installation dated February 16th of 2021. I see that we have Peter Lyons from Collins Engineering, and I'll turn the floor over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone. Can you just confirm and you can hear me all right?
Loud and clear.
Awesome. I'm gonna share the plan quick and if I need to move around, just let me know. Um, It's telling me it's paused. Can you guys see anything yet or no?
Just a couple of words said you started screen sharing.
All right, bear with me here. Where is it? Let's try this one.
That's visible.
Okay, we see this, but it's not the page I want. Do you see the plan view or the detail sheet? Are we looking at the plan right now?
Plan.
Okay, awesome. So again, for the record, I'm Peter Lyons with Collins Civil Engineering Group, representing the property owners here. A quick overview of the site. This was done approximately, about, I think 10 years ago. This was a rather large leaching field and septic collection system that was designed a while back. This portion of the project we're here for today is simply for the existing 6-bedroom home located to the west of the site. The proposal is to install a new 2,500 gallon septic tank, and that's going to run to the south a couple hundred feet to an existing pump chamber. So that's essentially the limit of work. You see the septic system, the leaching beds 1 and 2, and all these tanks, that's all existing stuff. So no disturbance is proposed beyond our work limit here. So basically we've provided a work limit that pretty much parallels the 50-foot buffer to the brook shown on the plan, delineated TB 1 through 16. I'm sorry, the western edge is up to TB 5. So we're as close as 38 feet with the erosion control near the tank. The tank is approximately 40, looks like about 45 feet off the top of bank. We're contending with an existing well, so that pushes us closer to the wetlands than we would than we had originally wanted to do. So to maintain the required 50-foot separation, we fall just inside the 50-foot buffer. This is existing lawn area where the tank's going, an existing gravel driveway where the 4-inch sewer main is proposed. So it'll be minimally invasive of a project, no changes in grade over the tank or the sewer line itself. It's going to be probably about a week-long project between doing the trenching and the septic tanks. So we feel our erosion control system will prevent any soil and sediment mitigation towards the resource areas. That's my overview. If the commission has any questions, I'll address it now. Thank you.
Sure. Merrill Lee, comments, questions, concerns? I was not there for the site visit.
I have a question about the plan. Is this a new plan? Did you have to rearrange something this afternoon?
Yes, as of today, it's the revision date is 3/23. So
Okay.
I did not make the revisions to my knowledge. What's going on here is our original proposal was to place the tank outside of the 50-foot buffer. And to make that work, we would have been required to put a couple bends in the sewer line. And the Board of Health prefers, or really they push for a straight line out of the building. So in order to do that, we are pushed into the 50-foot buffer. That was the only change, is a minor tank adjustment, which puts us inside the 50. And again, the reason for that is to eliminate any bends in the pipe running to the septic tank.
Yeah, that makes good sense.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, And will you get to keep that big tree that's sitting right there underneath it? Like, it looks like it's, south of the new tank. Will it get to stay, the big white pine?
I believe so. That trenching should be done with like a mini excavator, so they're only making a trench about 2 feet wide. So that location isn't, totally set in stone. So they can move that pipe around a little, so they'll probably go right between the two big trees there.
Good.
I
Good, they
have a
look like they
question.
provide good shade.
Mr. Lyons, quick question of clarification. So the chamber on the south side of Clem's Way behind those two houses, that exists, correct? That's
That-
already.
Yep, that currently exists.
Services those two homes there by the street, is that right?
That is correct. Those have been in service.
Yeah, I remember visiting this site way back when.
Yep, so it's a single tank installation and the associated piping to the tank and from the tank into the pump chamber.
Right. Okay. Anybody on the commission that was there have any questions or comments?
No.
Okay. Mr. Lyons, I want to ask that you stop sharing so I can see everybody in gallery view again. Thank you. I don't know if Mr. St. Armand, do you have any comments or questions about this? Or anybody else that's tuned in?
No, I don't have any comments. Peter did a pretty good job of explaining what we're doing.
Good. Glad you're happy with it.
Just for information, I'm not planning on taking the tree out if you're interested. You mentioned the tree.
Yeah,
We're gonna leave the tree there.
that's good. All right. Seeing no other comments or questions, I will entertain a motion for a negative determination for 1094 Main Street. That's a motion from Everett. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
From Heidi. Any further discussion?
Nope.
All right, as I see you on my screen, Heidi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
That's unanimous. Thank you. Mr. Lyons, Mr. St. Armand.
All right, thank you all. Have a good night.
Next, we have an NOI for Peter Avila. Hopefully I said that correctly, with the accent on the proper syllable. 40 Lake Street, we have a file number for that, which are down here. It is SE001-0563. Notice of intent was filed by Peter Avila for property located at 40 Lake Street, map 19, lot 35. The applicant proposes to construct a 30-foot by 40-foot garage addition and driveway within the 100-foot buffer zone of a bordering vegetated wetland. The applicant is represented by Jason Youngquist of Outback Engineering Incorporated. Plan name is Site Plan for Proposed Garage at number 40 Lake Street in Acushnet, Mass. Dated February 16 of 2021. Mr. Avila, are you speaking on your behalf? Do you have an engineer there for you?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm not Jason Youngkus, I'm Jeff, his dad.
Okay,
Be here.
Thanks, Jeff. And you did pronounce the name right. Great job.
cool. Thank you. Happy to hear it. Mr. Youngquist, the floor is yours.
Yes, I hope everybody has a plan because I don't have the capability where I sit with the share the screen. So basically he's putting the garage directly behind the house, well, sort of behind the house and pool between the pond and the 40-foot right of way. It's kind of shoehorned in there. It fits in there. I understand you had a site visit out there Saturday? To the board?
I think so, a couple of members went, yep.
That's basically it. Is there any questions?
Marilee, I'm gonna turn it over to you. You've seen the plans, I haven't. And you're still on mute. Calling on you, Marilee.
Sorry. It's pretty straightforward. The area where the garage is going is already fenced off. So you can picture it when you get out there and look at it. And, you know, it's behind the house and next to the pool. And, you know, it looks like it'll fit perfect. So it doesn't appear to have a whole lot of effect on the pond or anything. As long as there's good erosion control and everything up.
It'll basically, it's set right on grade, so there'll be virtually very little fill, let's put it that way. A little on the back side of it, but basically it's maybe 2 or 3 feet, 4 feet of fill against the building. But other than that, it should be quite simple to put in there.
What are you going to use for erosion control? And I ask because I haven't seen the plans.
Okay, we're using silt fence. Barry, tow in a silt fence, and you're going to tow it in.
Okay.
Between the pond and the garage.
Merrily was satisfied with the location of that silt fence?
Yeah, it looks like it'll do it. Does the garage have a basement or a foundation?
Or just a slab?
It should be a slab on grade. Peter, am I correct?
Yes, I mean, I think we're gonna have to pour footings.
You
I
have
would
to pour
imagine,
footings.
but it's going to be basically a slab with just some footings, correct? And we do have to bring it up in the back a little bit, but you know, we were gonna put that silt fence like we discussed to keep the any type of erosion control, get the erosion control.
Okay.
Right.
Anybody from the commission have questions or comments? Okay. Ryan's shaking his camera no. That's pretty clever. All right, in that case, I will entertain a motion for a positive order of conditions for 40 Lake Street.
Jim?
That's a motion from Heidi. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Ryan. Any further discussion? Okay, Heidi, how do you vote?
Yes.
Everett?
Yes.
Ryan?
Yes.
Okay, that's unanimous. Mr. Youngquist, Mr. Avila, thank you both.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too. Next, we have agent updates.
Okay. There's not a lot to report, I'm afraid. They, you know, we had our MVP planning sessions. That was kind of fun. And, you know, there's a little bit of a breach of the erosion control on Labonte Street, so we need to get in touch with them. But I'm sure they'll clean that right up. And other than that, everybody seems to be working away, you know, putting up what they're doing.
Any new?
Still the fields haven't broken ground, most of them yet. So
Any
there's
news?
still.
Lane?
I'm sorry, would you repeat that?
Any news about Wilfred Lane?
Oh, no, just that we got back the green card, but that was it.
And I attended that boards, you know, municipal boards meeting on Saturday morning. To me, the best part of it was the review of the open meeting law and ethics and all of that. That was really useful. A guide for members of public boards and commissions. That's what it was called. Run by the Mass Office of Inspector General. So anyway, so that's that. That's all I have. Anybody else with business for the commission? All right. Well, Everett, what is that? Yeah, it is. As of 3 days ago. It's a happy woodchuck.
Yeah.
Happy commission.
Mm-hmm.
Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 13th, still to be held by Zoom. Yeah, we don't, I mean, this is going to keep on going for at least a couple more months, Zoom meetings. Till we get more people vaccinated. So seeing other business for the commission, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
That's from Everett. Heidi, that looked like a second from you.
Sure.
You can all give me a wave. How do you vote?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Meeting adjourned at 6:51 PM.
All right, guys.
Thank
See you
you all.
next
See you at the
time.
next site visit.
Okay.
You guys take care.